Hello, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Engineer Your Energy. I'm Caroline Milton, owner of Milton Coaching Collective, where we provide individual and organizational strategies for preventing burnout and managing change. And these weekly episodes are really meant to help you understand some of the factors that might influence energy levels, productivity levels, and overall well being. So, our topics range broadly because, as you'll come to learn through these episodes, there are a lot of things that can impact your ability to work and your overall expression of health. So, today we are talking about the workplace. And in particular, we're talking about leadership styles, the difference between leading to support and leading to control. Because, as you'll find, these different leadership styles can have a very different impact on the teams of those leaders. So, we are primarily going to be talking about leading to support, but let's look at what leading to control behaviors might include. So, the opposite of leading to support is leading to control. And you might be a leader who is leading to control if you're oftentimes prescriptive, if you're inflexible, if you're rigid in tone, if you're rigid in your communication style, and rigid in your interactions with your employees. You might be a leader who controls if you scrutinize your employees' slightest actions. You might be a leader who controls if you pressure individuals to think, feel, or behave in certain ways. If you use corrective or other punitive actions intended to restore the behavior back to the desired outcome, right? So, a lot of pressure here. You might be a leader who controls when you create a competitive, individual oriented atmosphere for your teams. Now, if you're watching this, you're probably not a leader who leads to control. You're probably already well on your way, if not already arrived, as a leader who leads to support. Now, I will tell you, in my career working in the corporate world, I have had leaders who led to control, who wanted to influence employees' ways of thinking, who wanted to influence the way that employee work was measured. But I've also been able to work for some really incredible leaders who led to support. And let me tell you, it makes a huge difference in your experience of work. It makes a huge difference in that team. So, a leader who leads to support supports meaning and motivation. All right, meaning and motivation. Now, high quality motivation is often referred to as intrinsic motivation. Now, intrinsic motivation, high quality motivation, is negatively related to emotional exhaustion and turnover. It's positively related to persistence and innovation. Now, one thing that's true about women who experience burnout is they often experience burnout as a result of emotional exhaustion. So, this is going to be especially true for those of you who lead teams that have female talent on your teams, is that typically women experience emotional exhaustion. That's not true completely across the board, but it is more likely that the women on your team are going to experience emotional exhaustion. So, leading to support is especially critical for those of you who lead teams that are diverse in gender. So, what does it mean to lead with support? Okay. So, first and foremost, it's important that your employees feel meaning in their work. All right. They need to be able to draw meaning when they come to their work. And I want you to take this back to your teams. I want you to ask them, what is meaningful to you about your work? All right. What is meaningful to you about your work? And if you're watching, I want you to go ahead and answer that question for me on the video today. What is meaningful to you about your work? Now, I have had different answers in different jobs to that question, right? When I was in college, I worked as an intern designing spine implants. I found so much meaning in the actual work that I was doing, in the product that I was helping to produce. It was going to change people's lives, right? Going from a very old school method of spine surgery into a very new age version of spine surgery where the spine would be able to be flexible and to be mobile and to replicate a true bone implant. That was amazing to me. That was so meaningful to me. And I was obsessed with sitting at my computer and helping design these spine implants because I had meaning and impact in that work. It wasn't my idea, right? It was not my patent, but I got to be a part of something that was so meaningful to me. Now, when I worked in my last corporate job, I still found meaning in my job. In particular, my meaning was in helping give voice to the teams that I led. That was so meaningful to me. I found so much joy, so much passion in being able to be a supportive leader and helping give their voice to the organization, help to be a valuable representative of that team. That was my meaning. That was where I found my meaning and my reward. Those are very different answers, right? Very different ways of finding meaning. And I am quite confident that if you ask that question of your teams, what is meaningful to you about your work? That you're going to be surprised by the myriad responses that you receive. That all of the different ways that the members of your team find meaning in their work. Now, studies have shown that employees that spend less than 20% of their time on meaningful work have higher rates of turnover, higher rates of burnout. Now, above 20% really doesn't make too much of a difference. It's very clear that at 20% of time dedicated to meaningful, impactful work, there's a noticeable difference in overall retention, overall enjoyment of work, and a reduction in experiences of burnout. So you should be providing time to your teams as a leader who supports where they can spend time on meaningful work. And really, what easier way to do that than to know what it is about their work that they find to be meaningful? You cannot make that assumption on their behalf. You cannot assume that what is meaningful to you about your work is also what's meaningful to your employees about their work. Now, other ways that you can lead to support include acknowledging and listening to workers' perspectives. Okay, very simple concept here. Now, this does not mean that you always agree with your workers' perspectives, but you should acknowledge and you should listen. That is your role as a manager, is to listen, right? Is to understand, acknowledge perspectives. Again, that doesn't mean that you have to agree. That doesn't mean that you have to comply. All you're doing is acknowledging and listening to workers' perspectives. Number two, encourage self-initiation and provide choices and opportunities for employees to take initiative. Okay, so if you are prone to micromanaging your employees, this is going to be especially a challenge for you, one that I want you to sign up for. Encourage that self-initiation for your members of the team. This is a big component of autonomy, right? Is that ability to self-initiate. Now, autonomy is not inherent right at the beginning of a job. It is something that employee and manager work towards, is the ability to have decision-making authority in the way that you show up to work. Self-initiation is a big part of that. So as a manager, when you encourage that self-initiation, you're going to see the overall engagement of your team increase. Number three, respond to questions and offer assistance and guidance as needed. You will not always have the answers, right? You might not often have the answers, but it's important that you acknowledge and respond to questions, that you offer assistance and guidance as needed. There is a TikTok going around with Simon Sinek right now, talking about his experience with an employee at Four Seasons Hotel. When he asked this employee, you're very vibrant, and I'm paraphrasing here. It's clear that there's something different about you. Do you like your job? The employee responds, I love my job. And when he asks why, this employee responds, because all day long I have managers walking by me asking me what it is that I need in order to do my job well. And the main takeaway of this video is that very point, that managers that offer assistance, offer guidance as needed, that ask, what obstacles can I remove for you today in order so that you can do your job well? Those are the managers that are creating a workplace of autonomy, of belonging, of competence that truly engages employees into being high performers. So responding to questions, offering assistance and guidance as needed. Number four, provide a rationale and explanation for your projects, goals, and for that big picture vision that you have for your team. You should be communicating clearly to a team why change is occurring, why tasks are being assigned. There needs to be an explanation here. Now, I know that sometimes this can be really challenging if you have not, in fact, received this rationale or explanation from higher management, right? You're told to do one thing, and then when you go to deliver that news to your team, you're like, I don't know why we're doing this because no one has told me why we're doing this. So this is something that you really need to sit on and reflect and ensure that you have found your rationale, your explanation for projects, goals, and big picture vision that you can convey to the team on your own, right? So creating that vision for them, really ensure that that team is performing together. And then step number 5, clarify confusion and any missing information where it exists in roles and tasks. One of the biggest job demands that contributes to burnout is a lack of role clarity. So if employees feel like they don't actually know what their job tasks are, it doesn't line up, what they're doing on a day-to-day basis does not line up with the job description that they applied for. This is going to cause a lot of confusion. It's going to lead to a lot of imposter syndrome. It's going to lead to a lot of overwork and ultimately burnout. So, providing clarity as much as possible to your employees is going to be a way that you lead to support. Give them the answers, right? Respond to those questions. Going back to point number 3, clarify any confusion. And it's important to ask your employees for any clarification that they need, right? Is this clear? Is this precise? Do you have a clear indication of what we need to do coming out of this meeting, coming out of this form of communication as we move forward on that task? And listen to that feedback, right? Even if you don't have those answers again right away, taking that and say, I will get back to you on this so that I can provide that clarity to you is one of the biggest things that you can do for your team in building trust. So again, those are 5 behaviors of leading to support that you can do today to begin to shift your management style towards one that really truly retains your employees, creates a performance culture where teams are supported, where they feel they are autonomous, and where they are feeling that they are meaningful and impactful in their work. With that, we will be back next Thursday for our next episode of Engineer Your Energy. Each week, again, I talk about different topics. Sometimes I have guests with me as we delve into these topics related to stress, burnout, energy management, workplace burnout, so on and so forth. If you have any questions on these fronts or any topics that you would like to see us address in Engineering Your Energy, you can drop those on in the comment section on this video today. And otherwise, we will see you next Thursday for our next episode. Thank you for being here today. Have a wonderful day, wonderful weekend, and we will see you soon.